Hi guys, I'm Ashu. This is Ashu's Archives. Today I'm here with my friend Prerna, who is also a counselor, and we're going to be talking about grounding mechanisms. So, Prerna, do you want to tell us a little about yourself?
I'm working on becoming a therapist. I'm also working towards becoming an animal assisted therapist. I started practicing about a year ago. I'm also learning a lot more. I'm also working on building my knowledge base.
This video is not just for people that deal with mental health problems on their own. You could have a friend, or just in general, you want to be informed about it because it just helps you be more sensitive to all of these issues. So yeah.
And you also don't have to be diagnosed with something for this to be useful for you. The concept of grounding. Everyone has stress or anxiety that comes up at some point or the other. So
yeah. I would like to say that when we're having this discussion, Prerna is not here as a counselor. She's here as a friend who's also a counselor. And disclaimer, I am not a mental health professional whatsoever. I am only talking about my experiences, my own lived experiences, and nothing else. So when it comes to mental health, it's different person to person. And so my experience is not your experience.
Yeah.
It might help you. It might help in certain things that you can find that work for you as well. But do not take it as a word by word thing that might work.
Yeah. I think it's always very unique. So even when you're listening to mental health professionals talk to each other, or when you're listening to them interview someone else, or them giving any kind of advice, it will not always apply to you. That's actually the only fact, is that it will not always apply to you, because each person is so different and different things work for them. So it just can't.
Okay, so in general, I would like to say that I have depression and anxiety and PTSD, which requires grounding. That the reason why I know all of this is because I've struggled with it for a lot of years. I got diagnosed when I was 13. No, not 13. 15. Sorry. I got diagnosed when I was 15 and I'm 22 right now. 7 years. Prerna, would you like to start off with what grounding mechanisms are?
So, I mean, this is not a technical definition or anything, but basically what grounding is, it's helping you be present in the moment that you are in right now. And it's usually for anxiety or anxiety related stuff, because that causes you to think a lot about the past or the future, which takes you away from the present. And it makes you, when you go back in time or when you go forward in time, you don't really have anything to hold on to, or anything that makes you that helps calm you down if you're feeling too anxious. So the grounding is supposed to help you with that. It's supposed to remind you of where you are right now, or the fact that whatever you're feeling isn't necessarily what's going to happen.
For me, it's that, staying present in the moment, because obviously with anxiety, I just tend to flow with the thoughts into everything that could happen wrong, and with PTSD, everything that has happened wrong. And I also tend to disassociate sometimes, feel very detached from my body, and it just feels like I'm not in my body anymore. The thing is, there are a lot of harmful ways of feeling grounded and reducing that emotional pain, or the sense of overwhelmed or very underwhelmed and
Distracting yourself.
Yeah.
There's a technique called the 5 4 3 2 1 technique, where you name 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. Maybe the order of the senses might be different, but this is usually what the technique is about. And by engaging all of your senses, it makes you feel present again, or brings your attention back here to the now. Yeah, that's one technique.
Yeah, so this technique, I think, is really helpful for a lot of people who just in general don't know a lot about someone who's going through something. For example, my mom finds it really difficult to see me in pain. So when she needs to help me, she goes directly to this because this is the thing that she can help access the most. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if I'm using the correct words, but this thing makes her feel like she can help me. And it's the easiest way for her to help me. And it does ground me a lot. It does help a lot when I'm going through. Oh, my mom just texted. What a coincidence. But I was saying something. Can I
It
forget?
helps ground you and deal with what you're going through.
Yeah.
I think what's also really helpful about this technique, if it does work for you, is that it doesn't require a lot of thinking. So when you're anxious or when you're already stressed, like when you're in basically a heightened state of emotions, it's very, very difficult for you to process things. It's very difficult to make yourself do anything. So like if you have to think it through, if you have to decide then like, you know, okay, how am I going to calm myself down? What do I need to do to all of that? Then it becomes difficult, which is why grounding techniques help, because you don't have to think for yourself that way. It's already given to you and then you can just like do the thing. It's kind of like being given instructions in that moment until you get to a state where you can start thinking for yourself.
Yes.
Also. And sometimes that can be very helpful. There's something called the 4-7-8 breathing technique. So before you start this breathing, first you breathe out completely. Then you breathe in for 4 seconds. You hold it for 7 seconds. And then you breathe out slowly through your mouth for 8 seconds. And these are some things you can find online, like that basic techniques that are like freely available. Again, the idea is when you're anxious or stressed or whatever it is, your physical body is also having, like you're having physical symptoms as well. You're having reactions in your body, and breathing always helps in calming things down, slowing things down especially.
Yeah. So this is one of the breathing exercises that always help, and that you can, like, if there isn't anyone as well with you, you can do it. And plus if there is someone with you, then they know what to do. They know that they can count for you or they can breathe with you, because sometimes it gets difficult for you to breathe, especially when you're having an anxiety attack or a difficult moment just in general, when you're crying a lot and stuff like that. It becomes very difficult to catch your breath, and this really helps that, because once my breath is out of sync, I feel like it becomes very difficult for me to get back down to a place. I think breathing is very fundamental to calming myself down.
And that makes a lot of sense, because like your breathing automatically becomes faster, right, when you're in that state, right? And I think something that's really worked for people I know has been breathing with them, right? Especially if they're having a panic attack or something, like seeing the other person breathe, or like feeling their breath or whatever it is, like hearing them maybe, like helps them focus on that sound, helps them focus on that action, and try to do that with them. So like from what I've heard, like when people are feeling really anxious, like, you know, maybe you sit right in front of them and you're like, okay, just follow my breath. Again, it's like they don't have to think then. They just have to do what they're seeing, and it doesn't use too much brain power. Another like really simple thing is taking a walk. Just going outside and getting some fresh air. Also changing your environment. So also when you're walking, you're focusing on, you know, your steps, trying to make sure you don't trip, looking around you. Suppose there's traffic, you're trying to make sure that you don't get like hit by anyone and that you cross the road safely. Then also there are so many sounds that come up and maybe distract you. Fresh air always helps, again, with the breathing. And changing your environment. Sometimes your environment may be the thing that's triggering you, or that environment is reminding you of something triggering. So taking a walk can really distract you from that and take you away from that space.
Yeah, this especially helps me when I'm having flashbacks, or like she said, when the environment is triggering. Just getting out of that space helps. But this is also something that mostly does not work for me, because like I said, to each their own. But also for me, why? Because I get overstimulated when I'm taking a walk. Like everything that you gave an example of helps certain people where they get distracted by it, but for me it becomes too much to bear.
I think, yeah, like what you were saying about the sound being overstimulated, I think the sensitivity that you have also makes a big difference, right? Like if you have an auditory sensitivity, like if sounds are something really overwhelming for you, then definitely going to a quieter area would make so much more sense, or going to a space in general that is
like a more
quieter
lonely space for me.
Yeah. And maybe even going away from people in your own room or whatever, right? Like just the sound, reducing the sounds rather than using them as a distraction.
Yeah.
So like I think what helps in that situation is being aware of what your sensitivities are.
Yeah, and I'm very aware.
Yeah.
I'm very self-aware in that sense.
Okay, so another thing that I personally have found really helpful is organizing or cleaning. So a lot of times when I'm feeling overwhelmed mentally, my physical space, like changing my physical space and making it cleaner or more organized, can help me feel like there's less clutter, and that makes me feel mentally also like there's less clutter. So also it helps me get this sense of like achievement or whatever, right? So all of this, when I'm feeling especially overwhelmed, is very helpful for me. Or when I'm really worried about something, it distracts me. It takes up just enough of my brain space that I need to pay attention, but not so much that I get tired or exhausted from it.
I mean, I was Prerna's roommate, and there used to be times that I used to start cleaning, and I'd also start cleaning her side because I just needed to clean, and Prerna used to be like, dude, stop making me feel bad about the stuff that I haven't cleaned. I was like, I'm not doing this to make you feel bad. But
that's true.
Yeah.
But like that's honestly like a perfect example of each person having their own thing, right?
Yeah.
Like not just because like interpretation of things being so individual. Like for you, the cleaning, my side had nothing to do with me. It was just you needed more things to clean, so you cleaned.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like, oh my god, this is like a sign that I'm not cleaning enough, that she thinks I'm not clean enough or something like that, and then I get insecure about it. So that it's so funny how that applies to everything. Again, that applies to grounding techniques, because your perception of it, what works for you and what makes sense to you, is so different from what makes sense to another person.
Yeah. And also communication. But for grounding, cleaning, it's just, for me, sometimes it becomes, I have a lot of space to think about other things when I'm cleaning. That becomes a problem. That's the only thing that can become a problem for me when it comes to this. But next.
I think so a lot of the things we've been talking about have been short-term things like that you can do immediately, but from what I understand, long-term ways that you can help yourself like feel more grounded, especially if you're in a prolonged state of anxiety, right, is like paying attention to how you're eating. And it's not, usually when people tell you to pay attention to what you're eating, it's like, okay, this is healthy, this is not healthy, eat this, don't eat this, reduce this, or eat this more, or like this is bad for you. There's a lot of blanket statements, there's a lot of things that people generalize. And the problem with that is that it's not always true. It's not possible to generalize even food stuff, because your body is also very unique. So when I talk about this, I tend to think of it more in a way of eat what makes you feel good, but not just emotionally, because there are a lot of foods that can, make you feel emotionally calmer or safer or warmer and comfortable. But it would also be eat something good that makes your body feel more energetic, or makes your body feel, doesn't make your body, for example, if you have a sensitivity, like I have a lactose sensitivity, but I will still drink milk sometimes and it makes my body really uncomfortable. And I recently did that at a time when I really shouldn't have. So deciding when, like paying attention to that, okay, I know that this is a reaction that my body has, so maybe not right now, maybe I do it at another time, even though I love this thing. So just eating in a way that's considerate of your body, I think, can be really helpful.
I mean, I have a very complex, let's say, relationship with eating and food, because sometimes eating becomes a task. Like, it's a chore, and it's just the most difficult thing I need to do. And also what I eat and things like that, if I try to eat comfort food like Maggie or something that's junk, it tends to become about my body, and I'm like, am I hurting myself? And a lot of a lot of different things come factor into this, and I don't think I still have figured that out yet. But something that definitely helps me ground is eating Maggie. So when I'm feeling very out of it, I tend to combine eating with watching something, because my brain tends to waver a lot, and especially something with subtitles help me, because then I really need to be visually
Focus.
and auditorily focused on that, and my hands are moving, so that tends to really help me out.
So you're using a lot of your senses.
Yeah.
Also,
need
like
to.
exactly what you said is why this works as a long-term thing, because what you said about the feelings that come up with eating, it shows you the connection between how even you're eating and your feelings. Like, one is that the thoughts you have about what you're eating, and one is also like your body's reactions to the foods as well, right? Like that combination, all of it is connected. So thinking about it in a way that works for you is super helpful. I wanted to say like one main thing. So like the most helpful thing for grounding is coming up with a plan. So what happens is, like, especially if it's something you go through quite often, like that okay, I do tend to get overwhelmed, or I do tend to get anxious more often. Whatever, more often or often enough for it to be a problem for me, whatever you want to say. But when you know that that's happening for you, you can also come up with a plan for things that have already worked for you, or things that you feel like you don't mind trying in those moments, right? But when I say a plan, I don't mean like, okay, every time I'm anxious, I have to do this. Okay? No strictness. There's a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of options for yourself.
Yeah. And also, every time you're anxious does not mean that the same things might be able to help you.
Exactly. That's why you need the flexibility. That's why you can't be so harsh on yourself or strict with yourself about it. But the point of the plan is just, in that moment, you're not going to be able to think as much as you would like to be able to take care of yourself in the way that you need to. Then it helps to have maybe a reminder of what things work for you. Like, you could write it down, or you could have an audio note or something like that. But it could be something that you hear or you see or whatever, and you just do the thing. Again, it's like you're getting instructions from someone else, and you do it. And if you have a plan, maybe it helps you not rely on someone else as much as well, which can be difficult because there's not always going to be someone around to help you.
I mean, so when I think of a plan, I think of something that these people created for me. Nilma, Mehak and Prerna. They created a YouTube playlist for me to listen to music in case I needed to get distracted, or letters that I could read, and photos that I could look at, videos that I could look at, and maybe just do all of them together. Read, look at photos from one eye, and listen to music. No, okay. Sorry.
And we gave you things.
Yes, they gave me a soft toy, they gave me money for food, and a perfume to like
And
for
a
my
jersey.
smell, and my jersey. Yeah, dude, that jersey is really helpful. Like, I just sometimes put it on my face and I lie down, and with hey in one hand. But I was saying ki there is something that I did for myself also that's very helpful. Is I have a notebook in which I've maintained this since 10th grade, so it wasn't meant for grounding, but it really does help me ground. Is basically, I wrote the names of all of my friends in each page and gave them all one page to write about me, because I needed self-validation. But basically, I just go through it and I'm reading something, so it helps me get distracted, and then I also start thinking about those memories, good things that they've written, and just move out of the mental space that I'm in. But yeah, and I also wanted to talk about certain things that work for me. And like, for example, taking a bath. Taking a bath is a very, very small thing that might seem just, what is that word called? Taking a bath might not seem as important, but it is something that helps groundbreakingly. It's earth-shatteringly amazing. And for me, cold water works. For a lot of people, warm water works, where it's like, it's just every sense is awake now, and I'm like, what just happened? I get
Shock
shocked.
sleep.
Yeah, I get shocked out of my brain. And also having certain things that you can hold on to that smell a certain way. So for example, like a cloth in which I put like things that have vanilla scented smell and all of that, that helps a lot. Like having things that have a strong fragrance, so the fragrance kind of brings me back from a flashback sometimes. Having a notebook, having someone I can talk to. Oh, if you're someone who wants to help someone out, and Prerna sometimes just starts singing songs that I know, and after a while I just have to sing along with them because I know the lyrics. So I have to like take my breath and then be like singing. I'll be like first things first.
That's true.
But yeah, so focusing on someone else, something else, or something that happened to other people helps a lot. Again, small toys that you can hold on to that are soft, even if it's a pillow, and things with a lot of scent. Again, sorry, things that use a lot of your senses and just keep you thinking about only good things, like that notebook I talked about, because it's very easy to spiral out. So having something that might lead you to spiral, I think, would be counterproductive. So these are the things that help me. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I think like this is a plan. Like, you know, this is exactly what a plan is, because it's flexible. It considers the different needs that you have, and you are paying attention to what, like, you know, what is usually the thing you have a problem with, or like, you know, if you've tried something and it's made things worse, you've paid attention to that also.
Yeah.
Right, and then decided based on that. Also, I think, you know, what she was talking about, what we did for her, as like we gave her, that was a gift from us to her. It was kind of like a support package of how we talk.
Amazing gift.
So the point of that was that it engages all of her senses. There was something to listen to, there was something to touch, there was something to smell, there was something to taste, but we didn't give the actual food. And
I did buy from that food on a day that I was very sad.
And what's the other one? There's something to see. So like, by giving something for all of these senses, I think part of it is also sometimes people can be very grounding for you. And in this case, if the people can't actually be there, if we're all in different places, then you can still have things that remind you of that person, that make you feel grounded. So that is, I think that was something that was like none of us had ever really considered before. Yeah, like it was just
amazing.
Interesting.
Groundbreaking.
So I was also thinking about things that ground me, like even like drinking water. Just reminding myself to drink water. Or, you know, a lot of times when you're going through, like for me, when I would be overwhelmed, I would think, okay, I need to take a nap now because this is too much for my brain to handle, and I need to calm down, and the best way to calm down is to sleep. But obviously when you're overwhelmed, it's really difficult to sleep.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
Sleep is not one of my coping mechanisms.
And forcing myself to sleep was often really unhelpful, because if I managed to fall asleep, I would have really restless sleep, I would wake up maybe cranky, I would feel like something was still wrong.
Yeah.
Or maybe I would dream about the thing, which is not helpful.
Yeah.
Or I would just not be able to sleep, and I would run out of my break time, or I would run out of my time to sleep, and I would have to go do something else, and I don't have enough energy. Like, there were a lot of ways it would go wrong.
Yeah, so there were times where like I didn't want to deal with feelings, so I just went and slept. But then I had dreams and all, like you said.
Yeah, and like what I figure out that helps me a lot is like, if I'm feeling low on energy, if I really don't feel like I can do any of the other things that generally help me, then going to bed but not forcing myself to sleep is really helpful. Just being on my bed, lying there, giving myself permission to do that in the first place, and not forcing myself to be like, you can only do this if you're sleeping. Otherwise it's not useful. Like, putting this criteria on what's useful can be really damaging for me, especially. So I think it helped me to just stop thinking of it in terms of how useful it seems or how productive it seems, and just doing whatever the thing is.
Yeah, also like that also makes me think about how, like, when you think of a certain thing that has to work, you know, like you said, the thing that you said, it was like, oh, it has to work and all of that. It took me 7 years to reach a place where I can talk about it, and I still have things that work certain times, don't work certain times, that when I'm anxious I can't figure out and all. And 7 years of being aware, and other years of not being aware but still trying to cope. It's very difficult, don't put that pressure on yourself that you need to immediately find out. Obviously, it helps if you know certain things, but let yourself take the time to breathe, give yourself some space. No pun intended about breathe. But yeah, give yourself the space to understand yourself and do things that are just comfortable for you.
And
Do you
I
have
think,
anything?
yeah, something that was really helpful for me also, and honestly, it seems counterproductive. Like, it seems like thinking about it will actually make things worse. So, like, I know what you were saying about sometimes it can make you spiral. And you need to figure out what the difference is for yourself. But for me, like, there are certain times when I'm overwhelmed that journaling helps me. That writing down what I'm feeling, writing down what my thoughts are right now is really, really helpful because it helps me organize it, and that makes me less overwhelmed.
Yeah.
When it's organized, when it's separated, when it's distinct from each other, then I feel less overwhelmed. Sometimes. But sometimes it makes me think a lot more about that thing, and especially if it's in the night, then I might end up dreaming about that thing. So it's really very, very, very subjective, very, very, like, you know, each time you have to figure out.
Yeah. So my ending statement would be, best of luck. I hope something helped. Always keep trying things, new things that might help you, and always try to work on yourself.
I think mine would be creative. Don't, like, you know, the things that you don't maybe consider now as things that could be grounding techniques could really be, because all that matters is how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
And it's always very unique. It's always what makes it right for you is if it makes you feel the way you need to feel in that moment. If it takes care of you and helps you do the things you want to do and do the things you need to do. So take care of yourself.
Bye. Oh, also like, share, comment, subscribe. Oh, Prerna, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at @Prerna.aat.
So yeah, do follow her. She puts up posts and all about mental health and just is a very wholesome account. So do follow her and help me out by anything. I don't know what I'm saying. So bye.
Bye.